This is Trigonometry Continued. So our task. So yesterday we learned how to find sides using trigonometry. Today we will learn how to find angle measures. So remember SOHCAHTOA. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent equals opposite over adjacent. Okay, to solve for an angle, how would we solve this? X plus 5 equals 0. We would do the opposite and subtract 5 from both sides. How do we solve this? 5x equals 3. We would do the opposite and divide by 5. So in trigonometry, to get x by itself, which x is the angle measure, we are going to do the opposite operations, and they are arcsine, arccosine, and arctangent. On your calculator, this is what they'll look like: sine with a -1, cosine with a -1, and tangent with a -1. And they're usually connected to your regular sine, cosine, and tangent buttons, but you have to press a button to use the opposite. Okay, so for example 1, for solving for an angle. So notice we have two sides now that are known, but we don't know the angle measure. So in this one, we're going to do the same thing. So what trig function should we use? We're going to use the tangent since we have the opposite and adjacent sides. So we have the opposite, which is 15, because that's opposite our angle that we're looking for. And then we have our adjacent side, which is 18, because it's next to the angle that we're looking for. So that's why we're going to use tangent. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to plug in the tangent of the angle equals opposite over adjacent. So we'll have the tangent of our angle, which is what we're trying to find, so x, equals 15, which is the opposite, over 18, the adjacent. Now we're going to solve for x. So we're going to do the arctan of both sides. So we're going to have the arctangent of the tangent of x equals the arctangent of 15 over 18. So when we do that, the arctangent and the tangent cancel, so we're just going to have x on that side. Now we're just going to plug in the arctangent of 15 over 18 into our calculator to get x equals 39.8 degrees. So for example 2, for solving for an angle, what trig function are we going to use? So we have 4, which is right next to the angle, so it's going to be the adjacent, and we have 5, which is our hypotenuse. So we're going to use cosine, because we have adjacent and hypotenuse. So we're going to plug it into the cosine of the angle equals the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So we're going to have the cosine of our angle, which is what we're trying to find, so the cosine of x equals 4, which is the adjacent, over 5, which is the hypotenuse. Now to get rid of the cosine on the left, to get x by itself, we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to have our arccosine of the cosine of x degrees equals our arccosine of 4 over 5. So when you do this, the arccosine and the cosine cancel out, so we'll just have x on the left side. And we're going to plug it into our calculator. Make sure that you're using the arccosine instead of just the cosine. So we'll get x equals 36.8 degrees. Finally, example 3, solving for an angle. Which trig function are we going to use in this one? So we have our x degrees and we have 12, which is opposite our angle. And then we also have 17, which is our hypotenuse. So we have opposite and hypotenuse, so we're going to use our sine. So we're going to plug in to the sine of the angle equals opposite over hypotenuse. So we'll have the sine of x degrees, because we're trying to figure that out, equals 12, which is the opposite, over 17, which is the hypotenuse. Now we're going to get rid of sine, so we're going to do the arc sine of the sine of x degrees equals the arc sine of 12 over 17. When we do that, the arc sine and the sine cancel out to get x degrees on the left. And then we plug in arc sine of 12 over 17 into our calculator to get x degrees equals 44.9 degrees. Right, so remember to use your inverse trig function, so our arc sine instead of just our sine.